up, my Toronto. VK on the beat. Check. I'm in Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm from Toronto, where you wanna get the city love. I'm in Toronto, like we wanna get the city love. My city love me back for my city love. I'm in Toronto.
Welcome to episode 1138 of Toronto Mic'd. Proudly brought to you by Great Lakes Brewery. Order online for free local home delivery in the GTA. StickerU.com. Create custom stickers, labels, tattoos, and decals. Palma Pasta. Fresh, homemade Italian pasta and entrees. The Yes, We Are Open podcast, a Moneris podcast production. The Advantaged Investor podcast from Raymond James, Canada. RecycleMyElectronics.ca. Committing to our planet's future means properly recycling our electronics of the past. Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of the community since 1921. And Canna Cabana, the lowest prices on cannabis, guaranteed. Joining me today, making his Toronto Mic'd debut, is six-time Stanley Cup champion, and that's just as a player, Bryan Trottier. This is Future Mike. I rarely make an appearance on this podcast, but here I am. Hello. You might remember me from such episodes as Molly Johnson and Carol Pope, but here I am again. Firstly, I screwed up. I had Bryan Trottier visiting the home studio. I was all set up. Then I saw at the last minute that Bryan was actually connecting via Zoom. But Bryan Trottier is a guy I would love to speak to because he's an NHL Hall of Famer. He won 6 Stanley Cups as a player, and the man can sing. This is my kind of guy. Let's talk. But what I didn't realize is how ridiculous his schedule was. And the only thing worse than his schedule was his internet connection. So what you got here is a Zoom with Bryan, which I deemed unsustainable because of the quality of the internet. Then we pick it up on the phone, and then he's got to go. He's late for his next appearance because he's got a book he's promoting. He's on a book tour. He's making a lot of appearances right now. But I am not done yet. It's tough for me to compress 90 minutes of episode into 20 minutes. In fact, I can't. I don't want to do it. This guy is great. You're going to love this conversation. But we literally end the call, and then I told him I'm calling him back several hours later. So what you're getting is a piecemeal, like 3 different connections over several hours. But I think you're going to enjoy it. And because I personally like hearing the behind-the-scenes stuff, I'm leaving in a lot of the stuff that every other podcast would edit out, just so you can hear how it all came together. But Bryan was great, he was accommodating, and you're going to love this episode.
I got to be on with Joshua Clipperton at 10 to 11.
Okay, well, we better rock and roll here then, because I got 90 minutes of content. I'm going to get down to 45 minutes.
Okay.
No pressure.
Yeah, I hear you. A veteran of war.
That's right. Well, Bryan, listen, welcome to Toronto Mic'd.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Mike.
You, my friend, are the reason Steve Yzerman wore number 19.
Well, it's one of the honors I think that a lot of us appreciate when someone recognizes you and gives you that kind of a compliment. You know, I took 19 because of Paul Henderson, and I was 19 years old at the time. And I said, oh my God, this is the perfect number. It's the best number in hockey. And now you see guys like Taves and, you know, others that are grabbing on 19 and making it more famous than ever.
Well, listen, I have further compliments for you before we get rocking. Now, I'm going to just speak right now to the listenership, the FOTMs listening, that as I said to you a minute ago, I have 90 minutes of content. I have 45 minutes. So I'm going to go double speed here. But here quickly, just some notes that came in when I said Bryan Trottier was making his Toronto Mic'd debut. Dano wrote in and said, he's one of the best. Lisa McIntosh wrote in and said, always one of my favorite players. I believe I had a small crush on him.
Love you, Lisa.
Now you're here. Well, you're here because you want to, speak to the FOTMs, the Friends of Toronto Mic'd, and you're now a friend of Toronto Mic'd, Brian. So welcome
Appreciate
to that.
Thanks, guys.
You have a new book as well, and
I do.
It's called All Roads Home. And Stephen Brunt had a role in this. Just give me an idea of how Stephen was to work with you, because he's one of the great FOTMs. He's a fantastic guest on this show.
Well, Steve's fantastic, not just his reputation, but as a person. But he made the whole experience that much more enjoyable because of his professionalism. But also, he's got that ability to like prod your memory, put things in order, keep things moving along, no panic. He just made every day, all our phone calls through COVID and our Zoom calls, just really enjoyable and refreshing, and bringing back memories and reminiscing and that sort of thing. And it was wonderful to have that kind of presence involved, because it was a confidence and a real boost. Steve's a pro. And
much like yourself, Stephen is a huge music fan. He has that festival in Newfoundland, and I'm going to play a little clip of this. I'm going to do this off the top to make sure I don't forget to do it later, but just a little bit for the listenership. Let's listen to this.
Okay, Dolly Parton, Porter Wagoner song from way back when, of Teardrops Were Pennies, Heartaches Were Gold. And Kathy, my sister, as a little girl, sang this hundreds of times. Dad and I would sing harmony on it. And today, Taylor and I are going to do our 2015 version of it. So let's sing our little hearts out here, Taylor. Have some fun. An acre of diamonds I'd offered you, a solid gold mansion, airplane or two.
This whole world would be yours to have and to hold, if teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold. If teardrops were pennies and heartaches were gold, I'd have all the riches my pockets would hold. I'd be oh so wealthy with treasures untold, if teardrops were pennies and heartaches gold.
Brian, that's beautiful, man. I want to go back. I want to go all the way back to your upbringing in Saskatchewan, and maybe you can tell me about the importance of music in your life.
Well, first off, thank you, Mike, for playing that clip. That was a fun moment for my daughter and I. Taylor's my youngest, and I don't get a chance to sing with them every day, but when we do, that's obviously a family favorite. Kathy and Dad, and then Kathy and I sing that all the time. To be able to do that to your daughter is fantastic. No, that's a Dolly Parton, Porter Wagoner. We love that song, but growing up in Saskatchewan, the first thing we heard every morning, Dad playing the guitar, the accordion, singing to Mom while she made coffee and breakfast. And, right after that, the radio went on. It was a country western station out of Regina. And so we grew up with this kind of music in our home all the time. And, we had a family band. We all had to sing a song, go up on stage. And when I turned 14, Dad strapped the bass guitar, taught me 3 chords, follow my fingers. And away I was. I was in the band, and then my sister would come up and do 90% of the singing, and it was just really a fun time. So music's a big part of our family. My cousin Linda was down in Nashville for 25 years, singer-songwriter. Her son's going at it. My sister Kathy kept the family band going in Saskatchewan. So I'm just really proud of Dad's legacy and the music and our love of music because of that. So to be able to perform in front of people and let them see another side of me is really kind of fun. I've done it at Hall of Fame. I've done it at Air Canada Centre, now Scotiabank Centre. But it's really kind of fun to go in front of the large crowds and they go, what the heck? He can play a guitar and he doesn't mind singing either. I don't have a great voice. I just love singing. And to be able to do it with your kids and your grandkids now is lots of fun.
Amazing. One of the great joys of preparing for this conversation was catching you on YouTube. I mean, whether it be like a Johnny Cash tribute or that beautiful, Dolly Parton, Porter Wagoner. Is that his name? I'm trying to remember. Yeah. I should know that.
Well,
right?
It's really kind of cool because the Rexall Center, we sang with Michael Burgess. We did "You Are My Sunshine." We were out in the GM place in Vancouver, and to me, it was like it's like, just kind of stepping into Dad's boots. He always wore cowboy boots, the cowboy hat. And I said, I'm just kind of like keeping this love of music going. And I think it's really, he called it grasslands country. And to me, it really represents our Saskatchewan roots a lot, because it's traditional country music, but it's kind of Dad's style, our style, the Trottier style, you want to call it. But I'm loving this show. This is fun. Holy cow. Thanks. A friend of Mike show.
Toronto Mike, yeah. I have to say, I loved your book, All Roads Home, and especially because here we have you as a young man in Val Marie, Saskatchewan. Can you tell me a little more about your mom and dad? Your mom is of Irish origin, but your father was a proud Indigenous man. Tell me a little bit about growing up with your parents.
Well, we thought we were the typical Canadian family, a little bit remote Saskatchewan, living out in the country, like on the ranch. We had a little small ranch, and but there was chores to do. Mom loved her garden, so we'd help her in the garden doing potatoes and corn and all her favorite vegetables. And Dad was a rancher by nature. He had cows, pigs, horses to break all the time. So I was his hired hand, and driving tractor and riding horses was a big part of our life. And just the work ethic of the daily chores, sun up to sunrise, or sunrise to sunset, rather, and then just lots of hard work and managing and treating people and being involved in the community and being a big part of the community, because Dad was basically the music in the country there. So like, it was really wonderful to see that kind of respect, how they were respected, how they treated people, and just all the family values. I think that you learn by watching more than listening, and how you become involved and helping your neighbors, and just bearing down in school. School grades were important, and being involved in activities and sports. And they always managed to find enough money for us to buy equipment and our skates and hockey sticks. And so it's a real appreciation, because we didn't have a lot of money, but we had 3 square meals a day. And, parents who just showed us a lot of love.
And your grandfather, I was reading in the book, your grandfather was put in a residential school, but he never spoke about his experience, did he?
No, he never did. He wasn't a complainer. Neither was my dad. Dad had a lot of discrimination. His generation felt it a lot. I think Grandpa, but they were, we learned the terms like half breed and all those things, and we didn't like it. But I think every ethnic group has a derogatory name, and we were taught early that discrimination is just jealousy, and just kind of have thick skin. And, a lot of people are of, half-breed descent, basically. You're half of one thing, half of another. And it's in everybody. But, they just kind of try to make it sound derogatory. And to us, we learned that early. So it wasn't anything. I said, okay, yeah, so what? You want to play now? And then people just forget about it. And as you build friends in your town and you grow up with these kids, they, nobody cared what. So I didn't have a lot of it in my hometown. It's kind of when we left that town, and it's the first time I really experienced it was at a hockey tournament, and there was an all-native team from LeBret, which is over by Fort Qu'Appelle, Saskatchewan, and they were a really good team, and people were saying nasty things about them, and I was like, Mom, why are they saying those nasty things? These boys are good players. And Mom says, oh, they're just jealous, like I always tell you. And we met them afterwards, and they were happy, and they were laughing, and really nice boys. And it made me feel proud that they were such graceful skaters and good stick handlers, like I wanted to be. And we ended up playing them, and we beat them, and they came over and shook our hands afterwards. They were just really proud. And I said to Mom, I said, boy, it's fun. It's fun to have Native heritage, because she says, well, it's a natural thing to be athletic and sports minded. And these boys are just like you. And look at your uncles, they're Irish, and they're sports minded too. So I felt I had it on both sides, so, maybe that was a mindset in my crazy mind. But, when you think your dad is Indigenous, your mom's Irish, and wow, I got the strengths of both family. I think we should all be proud of our heritage to a great degree.
And is it true, this is wonderful that you're doing this, that you're now traveling to Indigenous communities and teaching kids about your heritage and why it's special to be confident in today's world as an Indigenous person?
Well, we've been doing it for like 20 years. It's getting some attention now. John Chabot and I have done it for a long time. Gino Ojic and Reggie Leach is part of our alumni team. We got Aaron Asham. We got Young Legs now. It's wonderful to be able to go into communities and play a little hockey and talk about our path to the NHL and some of the successes we've had. But obviously, avoiding pitfalls along the way too, and making healthy choices for ourselves. And the kids are very, very responsive, and the parents are so appreciative. The teachers enjoy having us come in, and it's a hospitality. There's culture, there's food, there's music, drum dancing. We get to share a lot of their hospitality, and we bring a wonderful message and pride about being Indigenous. And I think it's a win-win-win for all of us. And it just kind of hit in the time for whatever reason. And, fortunately, it's getting a lot of awareness, and there's a lot going on in the Indigenous world, and rightfully so. I think it's just it brings I think an awareness and an inclusiveness for all of us.
Well, Bryan, I mean, for many Canadians, the awareness of the atrocities is only a recent happening in our history. I mean, you could tie a line to the great work of Gord Downie, or you could talk about the unmarked graves that were discovered. But it's only in the very recent history that the vast majority of Canadians have basically become aware of this horrific part of our history with regards to the residential schools and the anti-Indigenous racism that has been part of our system for far too long.
Well, there's so much history, and it's generational. When you look back to my grandparents, my great grandfather, Patrice, who was a buffalo hunter, came from the Red River area in Manitoba. And I looked at my grandparents, my grandma's down from Montana, and they know that history. And that's ingrained in them, like this generation is learning of those generational atrocities, or whatever you want to call them. But it wasn't fair. It wasn't great. And I think there's some embarrassment to a lot of it. So the awareness is great, but I think we got to keep moving forward.
Now, when you were living in Val-Marie, Saskatchewan, that's where you turned on your television and first saw Jean Beliveau hugging the Stanley Cup. Is that when you realized, hockey was the game for you? When does it click in that you could make a go of this and become a pro?
I really enjoyed skating. I was just learning how to skate when all that happened, and we're just getting minor hockey in Val-Marie. My buddies, Claude Jensen, Bernie Serena, were good little players, and the three of us thought we're all going to NHL. We're just learning how to play. But when Jean Beliveau held that was a vivid memory, a really powerful memory for me. And it's something I said, wow, look how shiny that Stanley Cup is. That must be the greatest trophy in the world. And here's Jean Beliveau, the greatest player, the Gros Bill, who's like almost the prince of hockey, and Gordie Howe's from my province of Saskatchewan. Dad was such a Gordie Howe fan, and we were such Toronto Maple Leaf fans. And he really liked the greats of the game. And he said, well, you better start practicing then. And it just really hit home. I said, well, I practice. And I think you when you put the time in, I think you get rewarded a little bit. But all in all, it was just a powerful dream for me. And I just said, if I just kind of hold on to this, and good things happen, little opportunities here, you climb the ladder through minor hockey and then midget hockey. And we won a few tournaments, go to junior hockey, teammate with Tiger Williams, who has the same desire I have to play in the NHL. And we worked hard every day, and he taught me how to protect myself, thank goodness. And, you just have those kinds of things happen to you, take advantage of them. Next thing you know, a window opens, you're drafted, and you jump through that window and you take advantage of that. But you never stop being hungry. You never stop wanting more. You never stop appreciating and looking for support along the way, and thanking those people. And that's really kind of what the book's all about. It thanks my parents a lot. It thanks my family, but all the other people that were involved in that path to the NHL, and then a lot of the success I've had, because without Earl Ingerfield, Stan Dunn, junior coaches, and the teammates I had along the way, and growing up in the area that I did, I think those things just make it special and unique in my path. Everybody has their own path to the NHL, but that was my path. And remote Saskatchewan to Long Island, New York, 4 million people, a little overwhelming, but at the same time, just super exciting.
Well, I'm going to ask you more about Tiger Williams, but first, when you're watching Jean Beliveau hugging the Stanley Cup there, and you're seeing this shiny trophy, and it is the greatest trophy in professional sports, who'd have thunk it? You ever pinch yourself and say, I got to hoist that thing? I would say 6 times, but that's just as a player. You hoisted that thing 7 times.
I got to race it as a coach in a suit, and I didn't bleed. I didn't sweat. I didn't throw a body check. I didn't block a shot. And it was just as exciting, because there's such an appreciation you have for the players. There's a different kind of appreciation, because the players work so hard, and they're the ones in battle. and all we do is prep them as coaches. And I remembered it as a player and all those sacrifices you have to do for each other, with each other, in order to beat the opposition. And here, I'd finally done it as a coach with Bob Hartley and Jacques Cloutier, and Pierre Lacroix was our general manager. It was just a special moment for all of us in Denver. Here now, they're Stanley Cup champions, so I got to kind of relive it with Joe Sakic and his team this year. But there's just a lot of really wonderful memories and emotions that fly through your body. When you're raising that Stanley Cup, you feel like a weightlifter pumping it up over your head, and you feel like you want to call everybody that so that they can share in this wonderful moment with you, and all your buddies back home and former teammates. It's just a great, great feeling, and there's no better feeling. So Jean Beliveau really kind of lit the match to the fire underneath me by hugging that cup the way he did when they presented it to him back in, I think it was 1965 or 66 or whatever it was. And, I just, the feeling of Gordie Howe being from my province and all those greats that played at that time, Stan Mikita, and just the impression they left on me, Toronto Maple Leafs, Dave Keon, George Armstrong, and wanting to play in the NHL and just studying them and going out and practicing something I saw on Hockey Night in Canada, a big move, or a great save that Johnny Bauer made. And so, yeah, it was just a great, great memory. And like I said before, I'm going to sound like a broken record, just a powerful, powerful dream.
Now, I got a great question for you from Brian Dunn, but do you mind spending just a little more time? And again, the book is fantastic, so much detail in the book, but Tiger Williams, just a little more on the role, because, you're speaking to the GTA here. A lot of Leaf fans listening. A lot of people here love Tiger Williams. A little more about how the role Tiger Williams played in your career.
This is the face of the meanest player in the NHL.
They call me Tiger because I'm tough on the ice. Then, when I'm home, I try to be nice. But I can't take these bags that can't take my garbage. So I got this from Quickie. It's new and it's tough. You buy it and you try it. Garbage bags from Quickie. They're Tiger tough.
Quickie, the name stands for quality on all our fine products.
Well, Tiger Williams is one of my best friends. So we met when I was 14 years old. He was an instructor in Swift Current. He kind of took a shine to me. And then 2 years later, we ended up being teammates. I'm on the team. And again, he just kind of took a shine to me. And, I wanted to quit hockey at one time. He pulled me back in. He drove down to the ranch in the snowstorm and early morning. And I was done. It's Christmas time. I was homesick. I want to stay home. And, he came down and GTO mag tires in the blizzard and got out to the ranch, and Mom made him breakfast. He said, "Get in the car. We're going back to Swift Current." And I said, "I don't think so, Tiger." And then Dad just said, "Hey, you can always come home." And those words just kind of, softened me up. And next thing I know, I'm in that car with Tiger going back. And he played left wing with me, and nobody touched me anymore. Hockey was fun again, and he was my big brother on the ice. And somebody did something wrong. I like to bump people, but if somebody did something wrong to me, he just beat the crap out of him. Like, what the hell was that all about? He goes, "I owed that guy. He won't touch you again." I'm like, okay, whatever. But, I think you need a guy like Tiger in your life. And I was fortunate because I got to have this guy who's super intense, same kind of desires I had to play in the NHL. And, we became buddies and lifelong friends. Even when we played against you, I hate playing against him. I'd say to myself, I don't want to play against this guy because I know how intense he is. He said, and we ended up playing him in the finals against Vancouver. It wasn't fun. That kind of a friendship and that kind of a bond, because I always say to myself, when I went to Hall of Fame, the first guy that called me was Tiger Williams. My parents died. The first guy to call me was my parent. It was Tiger Williams. So he's always there, good or bad, thick or thin, and that's what you need. And thank you ain't a big enough words to say to a guy like Tiger Williams.
Brian Dunn has a great question from his dad, Dennis. Ask him if it's true he drove his pickup truck to his first training camp for the Islanders.
I did not drive my first pickup truck. So the Islanders bought me a car. It was a Chrysler New Yorker, and I gave it to my parents when I left for my first training camp in New York. And I gave it to them as a gift. Thank you very much. And it was just a 1974 Chrysler New Yorker Brougham. I flew to New York. I came back home and the van was sitting in the yard. They traded it up for a van. So he could get his musical instruments into the van. It's a little frustrating, Mike. Sorry about that.
Hey, you know what? We're going to plow through. You've been through worse, so we're going to plow through here. I just hope you can hear my great questions because I have a great question from Rick. When did he start the mustache? His rookie card does not have it.
My second year, because I was tired of that song, that you got the cutest little baby face. I hated that song because guys would always say, hey, you got a nice baby face. I'm like, So I grew a mustache just to get rid of that moniker that everybody was calling me. And that song, hey, I hated it.
Baby face, you got the cutest little baby face. There's not another who can take your place. Baby face, my poor heart is thumping. You sure have started something, baby face. I'm up in heaven when I'm in your fond embrace. Well, I need a shove because I'm in love with my pretty baby face.
I'd like to shout out a few sponsors of this program that have been around for years, literally renewing year after year after year. We couldn't have this program without Great Lakes Brewery, fresh craft beer brewed right here in southern Etobicoke, Palma Pasta, delicious authentic Italian food in Mississauga and Oakville. Go to palmapasta.com, stickeru.com. Load it up in your browser, upload an image, and get stickers, decals, temporary tattoos, you name it. They're wonderful people. And shout out to Ridley Funeral Home, pillars of this community since 1921.
There's not another who can take your place, baby face. My poor heart is thumping. You sure have started something, baby face. I'm up in heaven when I'm in your fond embrace. I don't need a
Thursday night, I've got Andy Palalis from Canna Cabana joining me in the backyard with special guest Mark Hebsher from Hebsy on Sports. Canada Kev's going to drop by as well. Canna Cabana will not be undersold on cannabis or cannabis accessories. If you have electronics that have reached the end of their life, you don't throw that out. You go to recyclemyelectronics.ca. Find a safe place to drop off your end-of-life electronics. Thank you, EPRA, for your service to our planet's future. Heck of a rookie year there, Brian. I mean, 95 points. You won the Calder Memorial Trophy. That was the NHL's Rookie of the Year. Heck of a start to your NHL career.
Yeah, good fortune, smiled. I played with great players, Clark Gillies, Billy Harris, first year, Dennis Potvin. We had a power play that was clicking along, and the team had some success, and Al was using the hell out of me. So, yeah, I had a wonderful rookie experience. I went from there. And guess who? It was Jean Beliveau awarded me the Calder Trophy that spring.
All right, FOTMs, we're going to plow through. We got Bryan frickin' Trottier this is a Hall of Famer here. We're going to plow through. Not just FOTM Hall of Famer at some point, but we're talking NHL Hall of Famer.
We got you.
Okay,
we got you. You're back.
Okay, good. That's great. Now, Chris Ward, you're talking on Toronto Mike here, so he wants me to ask you about those pesky Leafs of '78. Daryl Sittler, Lanny McDonald, Mike Palmateer, Borje Salming. What can you tell us about the Leafs of '78?
Well, I didn't like Lanny for a long time. He scored an overtime goal and knocked us out of the playoffs. But we've forgiven him because I think they just made us mad or something because we won 4 after that. But no, Paul Mateer stood on his ear. Ian Turnbull, Salming. What a team they had. They had a pesky Leaf team. That's a perfect term. They were.
Hey, Brian, do you want me to phone you?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Hello.
I'm glad you answered. I forgot it was going to be a Georgia number.
516, yeah, Long Island, New York.
Okay, my friend. Let me just find out where I'm at here. This is going great. Thank you so much for this. I think you're going to enjoy this. Okay. Ken would like me to ask you, do you have any interesting, funny stories about Al Arbour? He always looked like he knew what he was doing and he didn't need any dramatics behind the bench. What can you share with us about playing for Al Arbour?
Well, there's some good stories about Al in the book. You're part about his birthday a couple of years in a row, putting a pie in his face. But other than that, Al was a good sport. And he understood the locker room humor. He was great. He'd come in. He was a father figure for all of us. He'd be looking for his glasses on the plane. And they were on the top of his head sometimes, and he made us laugh. He brought a little humor about all this stuff, but he poked a little fun at guys in the locker room. He wouldn't try to embarrass anybody. He stopped skating like, you got a piano on your back. And of course, when he walked out of the room, we'd all be ribbing each other. Oh, you're skating like you got a piano on your back. But he was a great motivator. His meetings were concise. He had a system that we're all pretty disciplined on. We practiced it every day, forecheck, defensive zone. And he just let us be creative on power play and offense. So we have a ton of respect for Al, and we miss him a lot.
Another fun fact. I like to drop a few fun facts in the convo here, but Bryan Trottier, you share the NHL record for points in a single period with 6. You had 4 goals and 2 assists in the second period against the Rangers on December 23rd, 1978. That's a heck of a week you had that period.
It was just before Christmas. It was one of those games. I think you just ride the wave and playing the Rangers, one of our top rivals, and Mike was red hot. I was red hot. And everything I shot at the net or touch went in that day, and it just ended up being an 8-point night. I think Daryl Sittler's got like 10 points to creep, but
right.
That was really kind of cool to be able to have a great game against a real tough rival, the Rangers, and have Mike and Clark, assisting and doing all their magic that we did at the time, helping me have a great night. And obviously, I think it was bad. The kid from the Rangers just had a really wonderful night like that, had 6 points or something that tied the record. And there's another record I kind of tease everybody about. It's a 5-second goal at the start of a game. That's always fun.
I watched it last night. I watched it on YouTube last night. Unbelievable.
Yeah, and I think McGillney, I think there's Dougie Schmale, and I'm thinking there's one more that might share that record. 5 seconds start of a game, and it was in Boston. It was just like one of those things, I was going to lose the draw on purpose, go forward and pressure their D, and it went into that gray zone between the defensemen. Mike O'Connell stood up. I topped the puck by him, and Milbury had the angle on me on the other side. I took like 3 more steps, and Mike Keane stepped out of his net, and I just kind of took a half slapper, knuckleball, and it kind of caught the lower left-hand corner of the net. I looked up, 1955, that was kind of quick, and found out afterwards it was a record for the start of a game, and then Dougie Schmale tied it, and then McGillney tied it, and I chuckled because I was saying, we need the technology today. I think I'm like 4.6, and those guys are 4.7, 4.8. I don't know.
Robbie J writes in, I'm sure you'll ask him about my all-time favorite player. And sadly, this isn't you, but it's Mike Bossy, of course. And he says he was crushed when Mike passed. A true hero to me and someone I was fortunate to meet as a kid. He was like no one else. I'm going to piggyback on Robbie J's question because D. Can wrote in and said, has there ever been a more all-around complete line than Trottier, Bossy, and Gillies? The combination of skill and toughness has not been seen since those 3 played together. Would you mind taking a moment and talking about the Trio Grande, the Clark Gillies, Mike Bossy, Bryan Trottier line? Clark and Mike, sadly, no longer with us. We've lost them very recently.
Proudly, I talk about the Buds, and absolutely, I miss them as crushed as anybody, and probably more so, I think, when with their passing. But beyond that, I think we honor their memory by living life to the fullest and celebrating their lives and talking about them. And I'm so proud of our line because Clark Gillies was the prototypical power forward of his generation. Or I don't think that term was ever used before Clark Gillies because he was just the full package. I mean, he was an unbelievable athlete, great skill, hockey skill, passer, heavy shot, just did everything he could to make the line successful, whether it was driving the net, whether it was back checking hard, whether it was forward checking, making the easy plays, the simple plays, the impossible power slap shot off the wall. I mean, he was the full package. You got Mike Bossy, the purest goal scorer in the history of the game, and he did his magic every time the puck hit his stick. We played the game one time, and he couldn't get his shoes on. I had to tie his skates at the game and got him to the rink, and we're playing in Minnesota, and he didn't think he'd get on the ice. He got on the ice, and it ended up being one of his last games. He scored a hat trick. I mean, he did those kind of things. He just scored goals because he could. He played an alumni game he hadn't played in 3 years, and he scored 7 of our 8 goals. And I told him, don't go offside. I don't need you to back check tonight. He scored the game-winning goal with 20 seconds to go, and Gilbert Perreault said, I think he comes out the vagina scoring the goal. And I said, I think you're right, Gilbert. But he was he's the best of the best when it comes to. And these guys are just great people, my best friends. And yeah, I miss them a lot. And we had some great success together. I'm so proud of our history and so proud to call them friends too and former line mates. But the Trio Grande was a moniker that Clark Gillies gave us, and I loved it because it sounded like a John Wayne term.
Right.
It sounded like it's right out of a Western, like the Rio Grande, the Trio Grande. And my God, I just love that name, and I love those guys for all the success we had, but just for the history we have together as friends and buddies and laughs and all that stuff that goes along with it.
Well, my sincere condolences. I mean, what a great loss, Clark and Mike, and gone far, far too soon. And I'm so sorry, man.
Yeah. Good families. Like we talk to Lucy and the girls, Tanya and Joseanne all the time, and it's really kind of good to stay in touch. And Pam and Clark and Pam's 3 daughters, we stay in touch because it's just it's a wonderful family, the hockey family in general, but they're family for life. You know, it's the same with the Arbor family and the Torrey family. Like we've lost these guys, and we want to stay in touch with Denny Potvin's family. He lost his brother Johnny, who was a good teammate, and it's important. You know, we stay connected because we love each other.
And you guys had a lot of success on the ice. I mean, dynasty. I think we invented the term. That's the term for the '80s Islanders there. And Craig has a great question. He writes,
"Thanks.
I consider the early '80s Islanders one of the greatest dynasties in professional sports. Where would Bryan put those teams in NHL history?" And he goes, "Are some of the players still close 40 years later?"
My God, great question. Thank you very much. We never called ourselves a dynasty, but when someone called us that, we felt like a dynasty, and that was really kind of a wonderful feeling. But I think where I'd put us near the top because we felt invincible. We felt like we were the very best of the best. And when you talk to Montreal Canadiens of the late '70s and any Stanley Cup team, Philadelphia of the early '70s, Boston Bruins of Bobby Orr, and everybody feels like they'd be at the top of the list when it comes to like beating today's hockey teams or any hockey team that won a championship. I talked to Pierre Pulak, and he thought his Chicago team of '61 could beat anybody. And that's kind of the way you feel when you win the Stanley Cup is nobody's going to beat this team. We had the best team in the history of the game.
Absolutely. Now, Asa writes in, this is going to take you off the Islanders' path for a moment here, but it's a great question. Why did he turn his back on Canada and play for the USA in the Canada Cup? Can you tell me a little bit about the decision in the '84 Canada Cup that you would represent the United States, even though you represented Canada in 1981? Tell me a little bit about that decision.
Well, I'll be happy to, and it's in the book. I put it in the book because it's not an explanation. It's just I just want people to understand that we weren't playing against Canada. I wasn't playing against Canada. I'd probably put more thought into the patriotic side of it, and playing against Mike Bossy, my teammates, and I'll probably all the crazy headlines that I got because of it. But I was really playing for America and trying to honor my grandma, who's like pre-Chippewa from Montana, and my North American roots, being Indigenous, and then the kids were born in the States, and made my living down here. I was trying to give something back to the States, and I tried to explain that to people, and I think it went over like a lead balloon because they just said, "Oh, you're turning your back on your country." I'm really not turning my back on my country. I wasn't playing against Canada. I was just kind of playing against the guys that were representing Canada. I mean, they grabbed the Stastny brothers and made them part of the team. So nobody called them, the crazy words they called me, like traitor of Czechoslovakia and that kind of stuff. And we're just trying to build the pension plan. We're trying to have a tournament to build the pension plan and make things better for the players. And I hope people forgive and forget because it was a long time ago, and you're much younger then. When you make those decisions, you got to keep moving forward. And that's what I did. I said, "Oh, well, I made my decision. I'm going to do it," and boom, and then away I went. And I took it on the chin, but we got to keep moving on.
All right, we're going to move you on from the Islanders here. For the record, Bryan, you rank second in Islanders history in goals, and you are first in assists and points, Mr. Islanders. Okay, but you don't play your entire career with one team. You win a couple more cups after the dynasty in New York. My loaded question for you, and I'm dying to know how you answer this, is who was the better goal scorer, Mike Bossy or Mario Lemieux?
What a great question. I get asked that. That's like a 1-2 punch. You could plug either one in, and you're going to be right. But here's what I think. Like, I played with Mike for 10 years, and I've seen him do some magic. I played with Mario for 2 years, and I played against him for 6 more. Coached him for 3, and he is an incredibly gifted goal scorer, playmaker, stick handler. One-on-one, I don't think there's anybody better that I've ever seen when it comes to Mario Lemieux stick handling. But when it comes to goal scoring, I give my edge to Mike. Only because his goals against his goals for per game is just a little higher than Mario's, not much, but just a little bit. Both of them, I think, are proud Quebec natives, and I think they carry that with pride. And I'm sure that when Mike gets up against some of the very best, like he did when we played against Guy Lafleur, Mike wanted to score against Montreal. He wanted to. And that's how Mario was when we played Montreal. It was really wonderful. We had a power play in Pittsburgh one time, and Mario was red-faced. He was tired, and Yager just came off a shift, and we got a power play, and Mario hopped over the boards, looked at Yags, and goes, "Let's go, Yags. We got to go score a goal." And I was like, my God, he doesn't want to lose to Montreal. And that's the way Mike felt. It was like losing to Montreal was like losing the Stanley Cup almost. But there's great pride in when the guys are great goal scorers, like the two of them were, and I can say both of them, were my 2 favorite goal scorers ever, because they're both my teammates from Stanley Cup teams, and I have that friendship history and bond with them as well.
Where are your Stanley Cup rings right now?
Well, I'm on this book tour, so I brought 5 of them with me. Believe it or not, I have 3 of the Islanders, both Penguins, and I didn't bring the Hall of Fame ring this trip, but I'll probably bring it next. But the rings are just a wonderful trophy, and it's just a wonderful memento of a great accomplishment you had with a great group of guys, and people just get such a kick out of seeing them because they got a little bling to them, and the rings now even have more bling. But our rings are spectacular little mementos, and we hold them and cherish them with all our might.
Rick A., very excited you're on the program. Rick A. Would like me to ask you what it was like being coached by Bob Johnson.
Bob Johnson was from Wisconsin. He was a very, very positive man. He coached college hockey in Wisconsin for quite a few years, coached the Flames. And when we came to Pittsburgh, he changed the whole culture. He made the atmosphere come to the rink fun. He made practice fun. He made us all realize that there's pressure in winning, but there's also this excitement about winning, and the joys of every day coming to the rink, having a wonderful day. Every day is a good day for hockey was his phrase, and he just changed the whole culture in our locker room. And we walked out in Minnesota for the finals, and he said, "Guys, win today, and you walk together for the rest of your life." And I know that Freddie Shero said the same thing to Philadelphia Flyers, and he just made it. He made me have fun, even at age 34, 35 years old, and he made me feel like a kid. Always putting you in situations and giving you encouragement. Bob Johnson was a special person, and again, we lost him way too soon. Stanley Cup champion in June, we lose him in September. That's not fair. That's tragic. And he's a special human being. He's got a great family. We stay in touch as well. And I played hockey with his son Mark Johnson, and it was just a great hockey player. And I just really enjoyed my time with Bob and his family.
Well, you mentioned he made you feel like a kid. You were playing with a kid because you played with rookie Jaromir Jagr. I got several questions about Jaromir. I'll give Andrew credit and ask his. What's your funniest Jaromir Jagr story?
Well, off the ice, without a doubt, is when he got his Trans Am. I mean, he was just, he was an 18-year-old kid, and he wanted a Trans Am, and it was just expensive insurance. And then Greg Patrick, signed the insurance for him, so he's pretty proud. And he called me Big Brian. He goes, "Big Brian, I get Trans Am next week." And he drove this Hugo for a week, and he's a big mountain of a man, this tiny little sardine can car for a week. And next he comes in with this big black Trans Am with Eagle on the top and leather seats, stereo, and everything. I was like, "Oh, congratulations!" I said, "Be careful, beautiful car." And then 3 days later, he's back in that Hugo. I said, "Yeah, what happened to the Trans Am?" He said, "Oh, Big Brian, I hit deer. Deer is dead. Car is dead. Everything is dead." I said, "Slow down, Yogs. Holy cow, how fast are you going?" "I don't know. I couldn't see speedometer." So he he's just a great kid. He has a love of life, and biggest smile ever, and kind of sheepish about it, but I just love the kid. He's a fantastic talent. Look what he's doing still at his age. Mike, I might have to leave on you here because I got to call this other fella here, but
Abe, listen,
love your program.
Listen, Brian, I understand that completely. Is there any way we could, after this next thing, that we could just have like, if I had 10, 15 minutes on the phone, just to wrap, because some sweet parts coming up here, but is there any way you could, I could call you back?
Yes, I could, absolutely. But here's what I've got here, and I'll tell you
tell me your schedule here.
We've got a ride to Sarnia that starts at around 3:30. So if you want to call me back around 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Well, okay, here's my problem.
I'll be in the car driving to Sarnia.
Here's my problem. I know you got to go. Man, shit, I thought I had, usually I have longer time, but I actually have at 3:30. I'm talking to Sharon and Bram from Sharon, Lois, and Bram. I have they're doing a farewell tour, and I'm chatting with those guys. So, is there anything before 3:30 that I could call just for like 15 minutes, just to give a bow on this?
I've got a half an hour. I'm on with this guy here now. I'm supposed to be on with him now. I've got a 12. I've got a 12:30. I've got a 1. I've got a 1:30 and a 2.
Wow.
A 2:30 and 3 o'clock. We're heading off to Sarnia. So I was.
What if I called you after this Sharon and Bram thing I'm doing at 3:30? Could I phone you after that?
I'm just driving to Sarnia. It's going to be like a 2.5 hour drive, I think. So you can call me somewhere between 3:30 and 5:30, I think. Okay,
so basically when I say goodbye to Sharon and Bram, I'm going to hang up and then phone you to wrap this up. I'll just tweet that we're going to wrap it up later. You go to this next thing, my friend, and I'm going to be phoning you back. I have your number.
Talk to you then, Toronto Mike.
All right,
Thanks
man. I'll love it. Thanks, Brian. Bye. Future Mike here. I warned you I would keep in the behind-the-scenes stuff. I cleaned up a lot of it, especially when the internet connection was failing during our initial Zoom. But I thought I'd keep in some of that behind-the-scenes stuff because I personally find that stuff great. As I speak to you now, it is 12:30 p.m. on October 26, 2022. I will try to reconnect with Brian in about 4 hours. For you, the podcast listener, you should literally just hear a ring and then hear us chat. I have a bunch more questions and comments from FOTMs for Bryan Trottier, but I'm going to actually drop in like a 5-minute bio on Brian because it kind of puts his Hall of Fame career into perspective. There were wise hockey people who felt Bryan Trottier was the better center than Wayne Gretzky because of Brian's two-way play. He was quite the talent and one of the greatest NHLers of all time. So we're going to hear that, but first I'd like to recommend a couple of podcasts to you. Learn how to plan, invest, and live smarter with the Raymond James The Advantaged Investor podcast. Featuring insights from leading professionals, The Advantaged Investor provides valuable perspective for Canadian investors who want to remain knowledgeable, informed, and focused on long-term success. Subscribe to the Advantaged Investor podcast, hosted by Chris Cooksey, wherever you find your podcasts. And while you're there, subscribe to the Yes, We Are Open podcast, a Moneris podcast production. FOTM Al Grego has been telling the stories of small Canadian businesses, their origin, struggles, and future outlook. If you're a small business owner or entrepreneur like myself, you'll find this podcast both helpful and motivational. And if you just like human interest stories, this podcast is also for you. Season 3 of the award-nominated Yes, We Are Open podcast just launched earlier this month, and you can find that where you find Toronto Mic'd and other fine podcasts.
I remember seeing Bryan Trottier for the first time, and I guess this is probably why I didn't end up being a scout, because I was watching him on the ice and I said, this kid will never make it.
Bryan Trottier was a true champion and could do it all.
He's not very tall at 5'9", but boy, he knows how to throw his weight around.
Could play physical, could skate, could score.
Every crucial situation, he's on the ice.
I really enjoyed the competition. I like to contribute in offense, and I probably took as much pride in the defensive zones.
Bryan Trottier made his NHL debut with the New York Islanders in 1975. Scoring 32 goals and 95 points, he won the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year.
When he first broke into the league, he wasn't as big as some of the other guys. He made up for it with speed and agility and just did everything he needed to do to be successful.
The biggest key for my family was not to give an effort, it was to give your best effort, always.
He was probably one of the most consistent players that I've ever seen.
Bryan is like the foundation of our team. He's the type of player that does everything well.
Feeding it in front, Trottier scores! Coming from the side, scores! Bryan Trottier.
Bryan always wanted to be the best that there was out there.
Him and Boss bonded together, which was great. I mean, the two of them on the ice, you knew that they were going to score, and they scored a lot of big goals for us.
Trottier with Bossy. What more can you ask?
It looked like we were having fun, and we were having fun, but we were having fun because we were successful.
In 1978-79, just his fourth season, Trottier led the league in scoring with 47 goals and 134 points, winning the Art Ross and Hart trophies. The Islanders' young core seemed to get better every year.
The building up to the championships was fun. It was tough. We were a young team, and we finally kind of gelled there.
The New York Islanders won their first Stanley Cup in 1980. Trottier scored 29 points in the playoffs, earning the Conn Smythe Trophy.
I'll cherish this moment for the rest of my life.
The victory in 1980 marked the start of a dynasty for the Islanders. They went on to win again in 81, 82, and 83, making it 4 consecutive Stanley Cups.
We like that feeling of being a champion.
There is the Stanley Cup.
As a group, I think we wanted to win, and I think that was our greatest asset. I think we all recognize the value of every player on the team, and I think that's what makes that run so special.
Thanks, guys! Thank you, one and all!
Trottier left the Islanders in 1990 to sign with the Pittsburgh Penguins, at which point he had amassed 6 100-point seasons, scoring 40 or more goals 5 times, including a career high of 50 in 1981-82.
Long Island was a wonderful place to win and have championships. It was like we gave Long Island an identity. And going to Pittsburgh, it was like fresh again. There was renewed appreciation for what I was going to bring to Pittsburgh.
He was a guy that this team had never won the cup, and he's coming in with 4. Just confidence oozing out of him, and guys looked to him and definitely provided a tremendous amount of leadership.
He helped the young Penguins win back-to-back Stanley Cups in 91 and 92, retiring in 1994 as a 6-time Stanley Cup champion.
But I think Bryan Trottier, arguably, in my mind, was the best centerman that I think I may have ever seen.
To be plain and simple, if I was given the task to start a hockey team, Bryan Trottier would be my number 1 centerman.
Hello.
Hey, Bryan, long time no talk. It's Toronto Mike.
Hi, hey, Mike. How are you? Yeah.
Good.
How are you?
Good. So you're on your way to Sarnia.
Yep. We're sitting in traffic, so we're on our way to Sarnia for sure.
Now, just to remind everybody listening at home, the new book is called All Roads Home, and you get all these great stories. I mean, if you've been listening for the last hour, you know that Bryan Trottier has great stories. So get yourself a copy for All Roads Home. Pick it up for somebody for like a holiday gift. And FOTM Stephen Brunt helped you write this thing and organize all your thoughts. So shout out to FOTM Stephen Brunt. But I'm going to ask you, you mentioned you grew the mustache because you got tired of people telling you had a baby face. But I understand with the Islanders, you also have a story about the origin of the playoff beard.
Well, the year before I came, so I came in the playoffs when they were playing the New York Rangers in 1975. So I came down and watched them after that series, and they decided as a group, when they went down in the series, not to shave anymore. And so they started a playoff beard, and the whole team went to playoff beards. And that's the first time I'd ever seen it, first time I'd ever heard about it. I wasn't part of it, but I was there to experience it and know the story. So here's all these guys going, just letting their beards go for the playoffs, and they weren't gonna shave through the playoffs, and they were just going to let it run and see if it gave them any good luck, and kind of rallied the guys, and so Laura's born. That's my recollection of the playoff beard. I don't know if there's any before it, but that's my memory of it all.
Kind of amazing because, I'm pushing 50 here, and I've just always known the playoff beard, but it may have all started right there with the Islanders when you came up as a rookie. Amazing.
Yep. The 1975 playoff run they had against New York, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia. I think I had about 8 whiskers to my name, so I wasn't part of that beard, but I had whiskers.
Now, following your retirement, I understand you played for the Pittsburgh Phantoms of the Roller Hockey International League. This is back in 1994. This ties in. I do want to hear about that, but I want to read you a question I got from Gare Joyce. Gare is a good FOTM and a good sports writer. He writes, ask Trottier if he ever thought about making a comeback with the Penguins when he was assistant there in the mid-90s. I covered a lot of playoff series and asked him about it, and he laughed it off. He puts in parentheses. I watched him skate a little pickup sessions with the Black Aces on the team, and he could more than keep up. I'd also ask him about coaching, Mario Lemieux, Jaromir Jagr, Barrasso, Zubov, amongst others, and how different a room with Mario and Jaromir Jagr it would have been than with the Islanders championship rooms. So there's a lot there to unpack, but let's begin with A, you're playing in the Roller Hockey International League, and B, did you ever consider coming back with those mid-90s Penguins teams?
Okay, well, the first one first. I played for the roller hockey. They had a tryout in Pittsburgh, and Rick Keogh and I were assistant coaches, and we were watching the tryout. And Rick says, "You should go out there and try out." I said, "Yeah, right." He says, "I like rollerblading," so I put the rollerblades on, went out, and worked out with the guys. Were passing pucks, whatever, and it was really kind of fun. Jack Kelly was the general manager of the team. He says, "Would you consider playing the home games?" I'm like, "What? Seriously? Have a little fun with these guys?" Absolutely. So I played all the home games with the Phantoms that year. We had a blast. They opened up the ceiling at the old Civic Arena, the old Mellon Arena,
right?
And we had a great time. Like our team, we had some local kids from Pittsburgh. We had a lot of East Coast League teams, and they played their hearts out. We had a blast. I think Mano Rom played in the league. She was playing roller hockey league, I believe, for one of the roller hockey teams, and there was a couple female goalies in the league, and the guys played hard. We had a great time. We lost in the semifinals to Minnesota. We got in a heck of a brawl, and a lot of us got kicked out. Go figure how I got kicked out, but I was in the middle of this thing. But I think all the guys were rallying, and we ended up losing the next game because all our guys were kicked out. And they lost a few players too. Many lost. They were coached by Dennis Maruk, but that was a great summer. We had a fun summer. I don't know if they did it after that, but it was sure a fun summer.
But here you are. You play that season with the Phantoms, and you're still in great shape. You're not that far removed from lifting the cup with the Penguins. Was there ever a moment where you thought maybe you have another year or two left in you?
Well, I did, and that's why I was a player coach, because I could always jump back on the ice if I was able to, and I was in great shape. My God, I was in phenomenal shape as far as skating and shooting and everything. The only thing I couldn't do was stay healthy, and that's really the biggest reason I stopped playing. Was every time I played 2 or 3 games, I'd be out for 4 or 5, and that's not fun being in and out of that locker room. And it was like the body was just screaming at me like, hey, let us rest. And it was the banging, not just me getting banged, but me banging other guys. And
right.
I tweaked my knee playing against the Anaheim Ducks, and it just wouldn't get better. It just didn't get better. And I told EJ, I said, EJ, my knee's just not getting any better. I don't want to keep rehabbing. Can I just coach for the rest of the year? And he was great. He goes, yeah, absolutely. And nice. I don't think I just stopped thinking about ever playing again. But even when I coached in Colorado in 2001, I was playing the pickup with the guys. We had 3-on-3 little games with the extras, and we'd put some skating out, pressure on the power play and whatever. And the guys were all great to me. Oh, you could still play them. Well, yeah, but I couldn't bump, and I like bumping, and I like getting bumped. I like battling, and it just wasn't in the cards anymore. So yeah, no, I thought about it, and that's why I signed that contract with Pittsburgh as a player coach. But once I started realizing my body just couldn't stay healthy, I was like, okay, I'm not going to put myself through that torture of rehabbing constantly in and out of the locker room. It just wasn't fun anymore.
And how did those dressing rooms compare? The Mario Lemieux Jaromir Jagr room in Pittsburgh, and of course the Dynasty room that was in Long Island.
Very, very similar. Like we had a lot of good leadership. Obviously, we had the captains on both teams, Dennis Potvin in New York and Mario Lemieux in Pittsburgh, and both of them had a great presence. But you have a lot of big man presence, like Kevin Stevens. I'd probably compare to Clark Gillies. I'd probably compare a Mark Recchi to a Butch Goring. Like just catalysts. And then you have a Paul Coffey. Who's capable of breaking games open, much like a Dennis Potvin. And we had a great team, but the locker room was that's a sanctuary in there. And what happens is, like, it takes on a life of its own. You got the guys that are like, hey, come on, get on. They're talking the whole time. You got the quiet guys, but the locker room is a special place. That atmosphere, the music goes on till about 10 minutes before we hit the ice for warm up, and then it gets quiet, and then all of a sudden the rah-rah starts, and it's great. It's just all reminders, guys talking out loud and saying, hey, guys, remind you about this, remind you about that. And it's great. And it was very, very similar in the sense that it was playoff excitement come playoff time. Regular season was regular season, but boy, did they ramp it up in both their locker rooms at come playoff time. Everybody wanted to win, and, the talk gets a lot more serious. Guys are encouraging each other, tapping each other in shin pads, pumping each other's tires, getting everybody revved up. And the goalies are doing their thing. They're usually pretty quiet guys, but pretty focused in and intense. And it's fun. It's really, really good energy.
Man, 6 Stanley Cups. I mean, where I speak to you from right now in Toronto, we only know of Stanley Cups from the history books. Like we have to go dust off the books, look inside, and say, oh yeah, that's what a Stanley Cup winning team looks like. So, wow, you're very blessed. Okay, I can only imagine.
I lucked out. I lucked out, but it was really funny. Like even as a kid, it was George Armstrong and Dave Keon winning Stanley Cups, and it was really wonderful to watch the Maple Leafs win those champions. I remember those vividly.
Well, black and white footage, I'm sure, but okay.
Snowy TV, yeah.
So several hours ago, Bryan, when we started this conversation, we began with you, growing up in Saskatchewan, and you mentioned the kids would be mean, as kids tend to be. I think the term that they were calling you was half-breed. And I'm wondering now, in your lengthy NHL career, did you experience any racism while you played in the NHL?
No, not racism in that form, but yeah, we had a lot of name calling, and everybody was calling somebody something. But it's just trying to get under their skin, and there was all kinds of really, trash talk kind of stuff. But I think nowadays the tolerance has really gone down, and I think guys are a lot more aware and. Sensitivity and all that stuff, but I really think it's a lot better. There's so much diversity and that kind of stuff. I think we got to be a lot more aware and a lot more controlled. I think it's smart, because I think that kind of talk really doesn't belong anywhere in society.
No, absolutely not. Zero tolerance, as I tell my kids. Zero tolerance. Now, some accolades for you, Bryan. Some accolades, of course. Your first year of eligibility for the Hockey Hall of Fame was 1997. You were a slam dunk inductee, of course. So you're in the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's awesome. But also, when they did that 100 greatest NHL players, I think it was 2017 that they did this thing for the 100 greatest NHL. I think it was 100 years of the NHL. You were named as one of the 100 greatest NHL players. Another slam dunk. But congrats on those accolades.
Thank you. Yeah, no, those are wonderful phone calls.
Amber Pay wrote in when I mentioned that Bryan Trottier was making his Toronto Mike debut. And Amber Pay, also an FOTM. Amber writes in, My nephew's participated in hockey camps run by his brother Rocky and nephew Jordy in Indianapolis when they were younger. Yep. And she says, nice family. So there's more than just you in the world of hockey in your family band, as you say.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We've had hockey is a big part of our whole family, much like music. But I had two younger brothers, Monty and Rocky, and they both played professionally. Monty played in the American League and was an Islander draft choice and was last man standing one year during the Stanley Cup years. And he's an intense kid. He's good skill. All about team. Love him. And but he had a great career. And then Rocky was drafted by the Devils and played 2 or 3 years in their system and was called up and scored the first penalty shot in their history.
Wow.
So he's got a little history with the Devils, and proud of both of them. They're both wonderful hockey players, and we all did hockey camps and instructed. And Rocky and Monty have the TNT camp in Indianapolis, and Jordy, there's Monty's son, was Rocky's nephew. They kind of took it over, and now Jordy's of age where he can run the camps, and it's wonderful. It just kind of passes on from generation to generation. It's a big part of our family, and we really enjoy working with young kids, young athletes, and helping them along and giving them some tutoring. But it's a big part of our family, that whole hockey instruction, working camps, being a part of the next generation of hockey.
Amazing. Brian K. writes in, his last coaching gig was as an assistant under Ted Nolan in Buffalo in 2014, 2015. Tell us about that year and leaving coaching.
Well, I always wanted to work with Ted Nolan. When he got the call to go back to Buffalo, I kind of called him up and bugged him for quite a while and said, Ted, I'd really like to coach you. I'd really like to help and be an assistant. I like the way you coach, and I think we can make some fun happen in Buffalo. And Ted was great to work with. Not good. He was great. Ted's an overachiever. He finds a way to maximize his team. Unbelievable bench coach. Just very, very tactical, and he's kind of a commander back there, and very proud. And the guys respond to him very well. And so we had a pretty good team. It just seemed like the general manager there was out to get the first round draft choice, and at the time it was this kid McDavid. And he just kept taking our best players and trading them out from under us. And as much as we asked him not to, because we were only a few points out of the playoffs, and at Christmas time, boy, the second half of the season we got decimated by trades and whatever. But the guys worked hard for us. We really appreciated that year. It was one of my favorite years in hockey. I had a wonderful year with Ted Nolan. I got to know Buffalo a little bit and the passion they have up there. And there's some great players that came through the system that, just guys that worked their hearts out for us. So, no, I enjoyed that year in Buffalo with Ted.
Derek writes in, how does Trotz feel about how minor hockey has become so expensive and commandeered by psychotic parents and coaches? Those are Derek's words, but how do you respond to that one, Brian?
Well, there's some psychotic parents in all sports, but
right.
I think when you have the expense and you have the investment that parents have in hockey, they want their kids to bear down. They want them to be committed. And I think if somebody is taking advantage of their kids, I think they respond, and I think some overreact. But for the most part, I'm very proud of hockey families. Like, I've been to a lot of hockey rinks. I have 2 boys that played hockey. I've got grandkids now that play hockey. And for 99% of the fans out there, they conduct themselves very well. It's just the few that give the others a bad name. And I think what happens, I think they kind of weed themselves out, much like the bad people in hockey. They just kind of weed themselves out because, for the most part, it's tough for me to remember a guy that I didn't really like in the game of hockey. And if people get out of hand, and I'm at the game, settle down. That's no sense getting out of just a hockey game. Just remember that. And I think for the most part, people are really, really good about it.
All right, Brian, I'm going to bring you back here as we wrap up here. Again, all roads home. Pick it up, everybody. I loved reading about the early days, and there's a story in there about your high school English teacher and guidance counselor who helped you develop self-confidence and encouraged you as a writer. Can you tell me that story? And then I know exactly where I want to end our conversation today. So, but go back and tell me about this English teacher and guidance counselor.
Yeah, well, I was 15, 16 years old. I had a guidance counselor in Swift. Her name was Mrs. Ewer. And the writing world knows her as Lorna Crozier. I did not know her as Lorna Crozier, but she went back to her maiden name, and well, which I think is fantastic, because here she's one of Canada's greatest writers, poets, and I had her as a high school teacher in guidance, and I was like, oh my God! And she was on a mission to get me through high school. She goes, Brian, she had my homework ready all the time when I went on road trips, and she was always grading my composition. She was my comp teacher, so my writing was always. I really enjoyed writing, and she was always encouraging me to, she liked this the way I wrote this or that, and she always make comments on my papers, and I just loved her. I adored her, actually, and I couldn't wait to go to her classes because she was one of those high energy teachers.
Right.
But no, she was a big part of that inspiration I think that you need as a kid to stick it out in school, achieve what you can and that kind of stuff. And she ended up being the commencement speaker at my nephew's graduation when he was in college, and she had no clue that he was my nephew. His last name is Grant, Kevin Grant. And so they went up and introduced themselves afterwards. They said, we loved your story about, chasing your dreams and giving it your all and whatever. And, we're Bryan Trottier's nephew. And so they had a wonderful visit because, our history is a long time ago when I started thinking about high school. But, no, she's awesome. And we reconnected several times and look forward to seeing Lorna on one of these tours, I hope.
Yeah, she's a Governor General's award-winning poet, for goodness sakes, and it's amazing to have her as your English teacher and guidance counselor. That's wild.
I know. Yeah, in that very big city of Swift Current, Saskatchewan, and we talk and we chuckle about those days because, for all of us, even as when she was a teacher and one of the guidance counselors, she said it was just a wonderful learning experience for her. And much like, my years in hockey and in junior hockey and the NHL, they're wonderful years of experience in life. And, we all use those as stepping stones. And that's what she did. She said, those were wonderful learning years for me as well.
Now, I want to conclude. I want to end where we began. We began with music, and I played some of the beautiful music you were making with your daughter.
Thank you. Yeah, that was great.
And JR writes in, it would be interesting to hear about Grasslands country music. You don't hear much about this in Toronto. Tell us more. So tell us more about Grasslands country music.
Oh, I'd love to. Well, Grassland country is what my dad termed the Trottier brand of traditional country. So we're from Saskatchewan, and it's all Grasslands National Park now. And Grasslands is like all the sweet grass, spear grass that's out there. The buffaloes live and thrive on, the antelope, and it's pretty mild meat when you eat it. It's actually really delicious. It doesn't have a really strong taste, and so we're really proud of that country. But more than that, we're really proud that Dad called it Grasslands country because it really kind of talks about our roots and where we come from. So whenever we're playing as a band, I always pay tribute to Dad and Grasslands country. So we're trying to build that brand in that sense. My sister kept the name Navajo for her band. And I just always bring up the Grasslands country things because, it talks about the 60s, 70s, 80s brand of music that we played with Dad and, the Merle Haggard, the Johnny Cash, the Willie Nelson, the Buck Owens, that tribute to that generation. And my sister who loved, Dolly Parton and, Tammy Wynette and Loretta Lynn and that generation of female singers. And, there's a lot of good harmony in it. There's a lot of good 3-part harmony and just good dance music because we played them at rodeos and gymkhanas and weddings and any function that required music, Christmas and New Year's, and it was really kind of fun to be able to share that with our community. And Dad made us part of the band, and I was always shy a little bit, but all that stuff helped you overcome some of that anxiety and stage fright to a degree. I'm not a professional musician, but people seem to enjoy our brand of music because Dad was just a fantastic musician singer. My sister she's a fantastic musician singer as well. And, I'm just kind of like to strum along, and I played bass when I was growing up, and I haven't played bass in years, but it's really kind of fun when we all get together and we have a little hootenanny. We pay tribute to Grasslands country. So that's kind of the gist of it. And it's really good traditional country. All mostly cover songs of some of the country's greatest artists.
It's funny. Just last week, in the studio here, Brian Good from the Good Brothers made his Toronto Mike debut, and he tells a story about he's got several great stories about Pat Burns joining the band on stage, etc. But I'm thinking, in an alternate universe, you're not an NHL Hall of Famer. You're a member of the Good Brothers.
Well, we've actually performed with the Good Brothers. They sang the national anthem at one of our NHL alumni games. So we got to sing some songs. They are just terrific entertainers and good guys and hockey fans. And, we enjoyed their company. We enjoyed, singing with them. And they don't mind singing. They'll party with anybody. And I just really, they're just good old country boys at heart. And, we enjoyed their music through the years as well. They're wonderful entertainers.
Good guys, pun intended.
Good guys, yeah.
Pun intended.
I love that.
And you're a good guy. Bryan Trottier, I loved it. I know we did this in 3 parts. It's kind of like a trilogy. And I love this so much. Thanks for making time for the Toronto Mike listeners today.
We love the show. Good energy. Keep it up, Toronto Mike. Thank you to all your listeners as well. Thank you. Enjoy the book, everybody.
And that brings us to the end of our 1138th show. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Toronto Mike. Brian is at Bryan Trottier. Our friends at Great Lakes Brewery are at Great Lakes Beer. Palma Pasta is at Palma Pasta. Sticker U is at Sticker U. Maneris is at Maneris. Raymond James Canada are at Raymond James CDN. Recycle My Electronics are at EPRA_Canada. Ridley Funeral Home are at Ridley FH, and Canna Cabana are at Canna Cabana _. See you all tomorrow.
And I'll play this guitar just the best that I can.